Human nature can be very confusing. On the one hand, humans have this incredible ability to cooperate in large numbers with complete strangers, and on the other hand, under the right circumstances, humans are the most brutal and ruthless creatures on Earth. Nothing illustrates this contradiction better than trying to understand why some people love and support dictators, fascism, and other types of authoritarianism. Academically speaking, there are two main schools of thought when it comes to explaining why some people support authoritarians. One has to do with safety, and the other with biology. Let's take a look at each one. A recent study in the United States showed that people living in zip codes with a history of economic hardship were more likely to support authoritarian qualities in their local leaders. This finding is consistent with a 3-decade study analyzing the values and opinions of people around the world. That study shows that when a group feels economic uncertainty, they not only tend to favor more authoritarian leaders, they are more willing to suspend democratic norms and excuse unethical behavior. What's interesting about these studies is that the correlation holds true regardless of political ideology. As long as they were experiencing economic hardship, people who consider themselves liberal or conservative were equally as likely to increase their support for authoritarian type leaders. Researchers believe that economic and social instability triggers a feeling of powerlessness that makes people look towards strongman figures as a source of safety and strength. Authoritarian leaders are usually pretty good at giving people the impression that they're going to fight on their behalf. The other school of thought digs deeper into human nature and biology, and it makes the entire situation a little more complicated. A global survey conducted at the end of 2016 found that about 1/3 of responders across 29 democracies supported authoritarianism to some degree. However, this authoritarian support remained dormant until a threat activated it. It didn't matter if the threat was real or perceived. In other words, economic uncertainty may not be making people more authoritarian friendly. It may just be awakening the 1/3 of the population who is already authoritarian friendly to begin with. The authoritarian mindset is defined as a belief in absolute obedience to authority. And when asked about the qualities that should be encouraged in children, authoritarians tend to prioritize obedience, good manners, and being well behaved over things like independence, curiosity, and thinking for oneself. In the United States, an online survey towards the end of 2017 showed that an authoritarian mindset was the sole statistically significant variable that predicted support for Donald Trump. If 1/3 of the population is already predisposed to an authoritarian mindset, this might explain why dictators around the world rarely see their support numbers dip below a certain threshold, no matter how bad things get. So, what can you do? There are two main things we can do. Based on these studies, it seems like a sizable percentage of the world's population may be hardwired to crave authoritarian leadership. And that tendency gets activated when there's economic and social uncertainty. So the first thing we can do is support policies that create economic and social stability. The more stable we can be, the less likely that these tendencies will get triggered in a small percentage of the population. The second thing we can do is simply outnumber them. Trying to change the mind of an authoritarian is a completely futile endeavor. The best thing we can do is constantly outnumber them at the ballot box and in everyday life to keep them in check. Human nature is always growing and evolving, and the more we're aware of our own weaknesses and tendencies as a species, the easier it'll be to address them. Peace.